And joining us, Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk time. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. A bit tired after the big Apple launch this morning, but always happy to chat about these things, which is why I stayed up, just so I could chat to you about them.
Well, I appreciate your effort, I can tell you. So what were the highlights of the Apple launch this morning at 3 a.m.?
Well, it does get harder and harder. When you've got a very mature market, it's harder to get a revolutionary announcement at one of these launches. And Apple do their very best. I think they used the word excited at least 30 times through the presentation. So by telling us how excited they were, we were meant to get excited. But what we ended up with was 4 new models, iPhone 14. That was pretty much the rumour was going to be 4 new models. They've replaced the iPhone 13 mini, which didn't seem like that good an outcome. Everyone wants bigger. So they swapped the mini for a plus. So you've now got in the base model, the 14 and the 14 Plus, 6.1 inch and 6.7 inch screens. Pretty similar to the last phones, slightly better performance in the actual processor itself, which gives you slightly better action in the cameras. No new camera as such, a slightly bigger sensor, but that extra performance helps those cameras a little bit. They stayed with the Lightning connectors on their phones, which is interesting. There was some discussion that it may end up being a USB-C connector. Probably the 2 main changes to the 14 was the fact that it's now got crash detection. If you're in a car crash, it will detect you're in a car crash and automatically contact emergency services for you. And the second one was emergency text via satellite. So if you're out in the middle of the desert somewhere, way away from a tower, and you need some emergency help, someone's been bitten by a snake or they've broken their leg or whatever it might be, you can then point your phone at the sky, it'll find a satellite for you and you can send a text. It might take 30 seconds or a minute to send that text, but it'll get that text out there, lock onto your position, and you'll get some help come along the way. But just keep in mind at this stage, that's only if you've got a problem in North America or Canada. It's not around the rest of the world yet, but obviously it will be going that way. In the Pro models, they stuck with the 6.1 and 6.7 inch, and it feels like a bit of catch-up to some other brands. First thing they've got is always on display. Some other brands have had that for some time. They finally upgraded their main camera. They've had 12 megapixel main camera for many years now. They've finally upgraded that to 48 megapixel. That's catching up to some other manufacturers out there at the moment. And they've reduced the size of the notch. And as only Apple can, they've made it smaller, but they've now given it a groovy name. It's now called a dynamic island. Rather than saying we've got a smaller notch, it's a dynamic island now. In the watches, the Series 8 watch came out. It's got a temperature sensor. That'll help with your health tracking overall, but they really focused on female health and tracking when a female might be ovulating. So that was a major focus of that. Crash detection feature as well and international roaming. But they also introduced a new watch, the Apple Watch Ultra. And Rod, that's for people like you and me, extreme athletes, endurance athletes. That's exactly what this watch is made for. It's got a larger display, 49mm display. It's got an additional action button, so you can program that to do certain things. Double the battery life of the normal watch, so 36 hours, and double the depth resistance. So it'll go to 100 metres before it finally fails. So that's a big new Apple Watch Ultra. And the last one was the AirPods Pro Gen 2. Better battery life, better noise cancelling, just small evolutionary changes.
A couple of things in there that really stand out. Apple playing catch-up. Is Apple losing its dominance?
Well, I think you are right to be a bit surprised at that. Apple have been known for so long as an innovator, and I think that's right. One thing Apple has done in the past, though, is they haven't always innovated, but when they have introduced various features to their products, they've made it fantastic or very easy to use. So, for example, when we had the iPod come out, it wasn't the first MP3 player, but Apple just made it very easy to use, and then they introduced the Apple Music Store, which made it easy to get music on there. So I think some of these features are catch-up, but I dare say they'll probably be better than some of the competition now that they have caught up. And that emergency text via satellite, for example, that is still an innovation. There's only one other manufacturer that has announced something similar to that that's not really operational yet. So that's certainly innovative. But I even think the always on display will be better than some of the opposing companies that have done that same feature or had that same feature on there. The camera, I think, will be better than some of the competition out there. So, yeah, you're right. It does sound a bit strange saying Apple catching up, but it's a harder world to innovate in at the moment. It's so hard to find things that are going to break through and be revolutionary.
Is that because we don't have people like Steve Jobs there being able to be innovative?
It might be exactly that. It might be the fact that you haven't got someone who just says, throw away the mould and let's come up with something different. It might also be so that they're very mature markets. The mobile phone market, the smartphone market in particular, is a very mature market. Samsung have got their folding phone, so that's certainly a major innovation. But it's got to be hard for them to sit around and say, what can we do next? What's the next thing we can really revolutionise this market with? It's got to be tough when it is such a mature market.
All right. And there was also some highlights from the IFA in Berlin.
Yeah, it's commonly called the Berlin Radio Show. Huge consumer electronics show. Actually, the biggest in the world. 250,000 people will attend this. So I just picked out a few of the things that grabbed my attention from that particular one. The first one was a SafeWear airbags. Now, this is something that you would wear like a backpack if you were working at heights. If you're working on the roof of a building or up a couple of floors, for example, on a building where there's potential for you to fall, it basically activates just like an airbag in your car. So if you fell, and they say it will handle up to a fall of 7 metres. So if you fell off the roof, for example, this would activate this airbag and you'd just bounce off the ground and you'd be safe. So great innovation. Might make people a bit more complacent on the roof and they might fall off more regularly rather than know that there's going to be much more severe injury if they don't. But this is something that, again, for personal safety is quite interesting. The Y-Brush Sonic toothbrush, they claim that you can clean your teeth in 10 seconds. It basically is like a mouth guard that you put in. You put it in, you activate it. There are bristles across all of your teeth, and the reason it can do it so quickly is because it's not just cleaning one part of your mouth at each time like a normal toothbrush. It's cleaning everything at the same time. So I'm actually keen to get hold of one of those. I never seem to have time to clean my teeth properly. The other one is an Invoxia Smart Dog Collar. Now, there are smart dog collars out there at the moment, but normally they're using some type of Bluetooth connection back to something else in your house, your phone, for example. This is a device that's using the new 4G LTE M, and that's a low power 4G network. And so this actually can track information about your dog and keep sending it back to the network. So it can track your dog's heart rate, your respiratory rate of your dog. It can tell you if it's scratching more than it normally should, if it's barking, how well it's eating, how well it's sleeping, and where it goes. And I'm keen to get one of these for one of our dogs because one of our dogs we nickname Houdini because it seems to get out of the yard sometimes, go adventuring, and then come back an hour later, maybe a bit of dirt, maybe a bit of a smile on its face, and we go, I wonder where our dog has been for the last couple of hours. This is exactly the sort of smart collar that you'd need. And then I thought of this one for my wife, but she's got too many shoes for it. This is a next level shoe rack. LG have got this shoe storage display and rack. Shoes sit on there in little 360-degree rotating turntables. You can stack them up together. It actually uses true steam technology to keep your shoes clean, but the normal configuration of this can only handle about 16 shoes, and that would only be about a tenth of my wife's shoe collection. So I don't think we'd be able to use that. But if you just got a few shoes, maybe a couple of runners, maybe some shoes you wear on your bike or playing different sports, perfect thing for you. And last one in this list is LG with huge TVs. They've now got the largest OLED TV, a 97-inch TV. It measures 2 metres across. So if you try to find somewhere on your wall to hang it, you need 2 metres across to hang that. And they've also got a LED TV at 136 inches. So that is huge. 3.8 metres wide and 2.1 metres high. So you've got to have a fair-sized wall just to hang that on.
Fair-sized walls to hang them, but you need a big room so you can sit back and watch and enjoy the technology. Why do we still measure TVs in inches?
Because they're all based on Americans, and Americans haven't got the hang of this metric system yet. One day we dream.
They can't count to 10. Well, there you
right.
go. Oh, dear. I thank you for your time, and we shall talk more tech next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Rod.